This is a culture where, and where else in the world do they get to do this? Everybody seems to grow up cooking and knowing how to cook, or at least how to eat, three different cuisines from three distinct different cultures. Maybe I'm getting a uniquely foodie look at the place, but it certainly seems to me that everyone I ever met in Singapore grew up learning to cook the fundamentals of Indian, Malay, and Chinese cuisine. It is, to my mind, the most foodie culture I've seen anywhere. Everybody takes pride in not knowing necessarily the chicest or the most expensive restaurant in town or the most exclusive or the hardest to get into. Everybody, rich or poor, seems to take pride in where can I get the best char kway teow. You gotta love also a culture where not only are they proud of knowing where to get the best, but they're willing to wait online for it, like an hour and a half, stand there in the roaring heat waiting for the best, what would appear to be a simple good thing, but which is in fact, when you do wait online an hour and a half, tends to be really something extraordinary. If Singapore, with its reputation for hygiene and safety and regulations, can have the most dynamic street food culture in the world, what is our excuse? You know, and it drives me crazy every time I go. Even their airport, and they have edible food in their airport, which is an astonishing accomplishment. Which terminal is it at Changi? Best airport in the world, by the way. With all the street, with all the hawker center. Terminal 2, yes. So if you ever find yourself on a layover in Singapore, you are in a really good place. Now, the hawker center is a place of hope and beauty to me. Correct me if I'm wrong, early on, Singapore was a place with a huge street food culture of people standing out in the street, doing what street vendors do. We have a great asset here. We have something to be celebrated. We have something wonderful. We have something we can't do without. Let's find a way to do this and, you know, keep it clean. Brought it into hawker centers. The person making your chicken rice or your char kway teow, chances are they've been doing that dish often for a couple of generations or more. Meaning, by the time you get your plate or bowl, you can be sure they're pretty damn good at it. It would be the solution to so many societal ills. You know, first of all, if we had a 4-square block area, or even a square block area down by Wall Street, you know, people knocking off for lunch, rather than faced with the same grim scenario of pre-made sandwich or you know, a sliced deli, you know, generic deli meat, could go and choose from 20, all in one place, 20 or 30 specialists serving food from across the entire range. To me, this would be Singapore is a very good example to emulate, and why it remains, you know, a paradise for me, and why, you know, I'm rooting for Singapore to become even more of a food destination than it is already, because I'm hoping that model replicates it. I'm sentimental about the place because I kind of lost my mind in Singapore. I went out there 2000, I guess 2001 was the first time I went out. I'd seen very little of the world. And Singapore, it ruined me for my previous life. When you've had laksa for breakfast, there's no going back to Captain Crunch with Crunch Berries, okay? You're never eating Cheerios again. Some really brilliant person with deep pockets should buy an old parking garage, level it, clear a square block, and create a hawker center. It would be the hottest, most insanely popular, phenomenal, game-changing enterprise in the history of dining, recent dining. I mean, who is better for this world, you know? An annoying celebrity chef or a Kardashian? To try to serve bad food in Singapore, it's kind of like trying to, you know, open a Tony Roma's place for ribs in the rib capital of the world. It's just like, we're just not having any of that. I've always been hostile to the idea of fusion is a bad word in New York when you're talking about a big box restaurant serving sort of bogus pan-Asian food, none of it done particularly well, mashing together, you know, Thai, a little bit of quasi-Vietnamese, Chinese, and it's all sort of terrible and post-ironic. Whereas in Singapore, you really see natural fusion at work over the centuries. People who've been living together, marrying, cuisines that have been mixing, basically creating independent cuisines that never, forms of Chinese cooking that never existed back in China, that have melded with Indonesian and Indian flavors and mutated into something really, really remarkable. These flavors didn't exist before people started living and working together. And what came out of it was, it's like nuclear fission, but delicious.